ये दाग दाग उजाला ये शब गजीदा सहर वो इंतजार था जिसका ये वो सहर तो नहीं.
We often see writers, painters, singers discuss social problems or speak of the common man in their art. But I think what makes the discussion around them even more interesting is when we stop thinking of what they make simply an ornamental piece of craft, but instead as a part of media reflecting reality. And today we get a closer look at a poet, a writer who was representing the times he was living in, Faiz Ahmed Faiz.
मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब नामा.
One part of West Pakistan is called the Punjab. This means the land of 5 rivers.
Faiz Ahmed Faiz was the second son to Sultan Muhammad Khan, a barrister, an autodidact, and someone who had written the biography for the Emir of Imperial Afghanistan, Amir Abdur Rahman. While Faiz spent his childhood in comfort, he went to a local school. It is said that he would often dress down, in a sense concealing the affluence that he came from. And it is this trait of becoming like the masses, of blending in and representing them. It is a characteristic that he carries with him throughout his life. For his higher education, Faiz was sent to the Government College, Lahore. The Government College already boasted of poetic giants such as Allama Iqbal as its alumni. In fact, Iqbal had written the recommendation for Faiz Ahmed when he'd gone to get admission at the college. During the later 1920s, the country was going through a turbulent period. Soldiers were returning from the First World War and they were quite upset and radicalized. Further, there was the Great Depression that had originated from New York in 1929, had badly hit the Indian economy. This was compounded by the Kakori train robbery and the Chittagong armory raid. People were basically looking for a way to rebel. Faiz's friends at the college included Khwaja Khurshid Anwar, who was influenced significantly by the radicals. Slowly and secretly, pamphlets would be distributed between newspapers or posters would come up on notice boards, and Faiz's room would become a contraband to hide these things. In fact, they'd often even have secret meetings in Faiz's room. But largely speaking, Faiz and his other friends were more interested in poetry and music, and Faiz was writing a lot of romantic poetry at this time, and they were all not that interested in political matters.
Attempts to create a unified India have failed. Gandhi retreats from political life.
In 1935, Faiz took up the position of a lecturer at Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental, Amritsar. The people he would meet here would influence him significantly. In fact, his close friend and translator, Ludmila Vasilieva, recalls, "A new Faiz was born, who perceived the world entirely different from before." The vice president of Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental at the time was Mahmud Zafar, and Mahmud Zafar and his wife Dr. Rashid Jahan would have a significant impact on how Faiz would perceive things. The couple was not very interested in poetry and the arts as Faiz found in the government college, but instead they introduced him to communist ideas. Faiz writes, "One day Mahmud handed me a small book and said, 'Read this and next week we will discuss it, but it has been banned by the government, so be careful.'" The book was the Communist Manifesto, and I read it in one sitting. In fact, I read it 2 or 3 times. Before this, Faiz had never been a part of any communist party, but following his interactions with Mahmud Zafar, Rashid Jahan and their circle, Faiz became an active participant in promoting the socialist ideas. He would go to workers' village and teach. Further, he was a part of the Amritsar Labour Federation. In order to ensure that workers and peasants played an active role in the movements, he used his newspaper. He was an editor for Pakistan Times. He would use it to promote the voices and the ideas put forth by the peasants and the workers. But soon enough, Pakistan Times and its sister Urdu publication Imroz would find a lot of backlash. This was majorly from unscrupulous newspapers spreading slogans of ethical or communal hatred. They were trying to peg him as anti-Pakistani or as a traitor. And Faiz was associated with communism that was now associated with godlessness. Faiz was a growing threat because of his popularity. Later, Faiz would be arrested under the Rawalpindi conspiracy case and would remain behind bars for a long time. Lastly, while we find Faiz's literary works commonly spread through popular culture, we've heard Arijit Singh's rendition of Gulon Mein Rang Bhare or Mujhse Pehli Si Mohabbat Mere Mehboob Na Mang being used in dialogue. But Faiz Ahmed Faiz himself too wrote a script for a film titled Jago Hua Savera. Today, Faiz is not just relevant because of his identity as a writer. Instead, it is almost as though he identifies the strength of using all the mediums available to him in order to instrumentalize them as a means to reflect reality. He's using media to capture what the times looked like. And in fact, Mujhse Pehli Si Mohabbat Mere Mehboob Na Mang, while it shows Faiz's transition from writing romantic poetry to more of a poetry with purpose, it's also showing how he's grounding something like love, a very popular theme written about. He's making it relevant to the times he's living in. Faiz is capturing the image of what reality seems like at the time and distributing it to people, making it available to them through media and telling them to find themselves in it. So how is he relevant today? Media has significantly changed since those times. Today it's almost as though we all have an audience at our disposal. And the question then that follows is, how are we using this media? With the change in media, the meaning of art changes as well. What does art mean to us today with this media, and how are we using it? Are we instrumentalizing it the right way? And I'd urge you to think about these things while we listen to Mujhse Pehli Si Mohabbat Mere Mehboob Na Mang.
मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग, मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग। मैंने समझा था कि तू है तो दरख्शां है हयात। मैंने समझा था कि तू है तो दरख्शां है हयात। तेरा गम है तो गमे दहर का झगड़ा क्या है। तेरी सूरत से है आलम में बहारों को सबात। तेरी आँखों के सिवा दुनिया में रखा क्या है। तेरी आँखों के सिवा दुनिया में रखा क्या है। तू जो मिल जाए तो तकदीर निगू हो जाए। यूं न था मैंने फकत चाहत यूं हो जाए। हाँ, मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग। मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग। अनगिनत सदियों के तारीक बेईमाना तलिस्म। अनगिनत सदियों के तारीक बेईमाना तलिस्म। रेशमो अतलसो कम ख्वाब में बुनवाए हुए। जा बजा बिकते हुए कूच जाओ बाजार में जिस्म खाक में लिथड़े हुए खून में नहलाए हुए लौट जाती है उधर को भी नजर क्या कीजिए अभी दिलकश है तेरा हुस्न मगर क्या कीजिए अभी दिलकश है तेरा हुस्न मगर क्या कीजिए और भी दुख है ज़माने में मोहब्बत के सिवा राहते और भी है वसल की राहत के सिवा मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग.
I've really enjoyed reading the feedbacks so far and look forward to more. And do let me know if there's something you'd like me to add to the videos, perhaps a question at the end of each episode or something along those lines. Thank you and see you next week.